just say this before I start. People's reaction to maps is so fucking overrated. I mean, no, really. The perception people have of maps is utterly fucking absurd, especially when people try to give reasons why they don't like certain maps. And speaking of maps, obviously you guys are watching one of the smallest maps in the game, Nuketown, and the gameplay comes from Zerpler, or whatever the fuck you pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce that shit, I'm not gonna embarrass myself. Now, here's the deal. We all have favorite maps, and we all have least favorite maps. I personally loved Shipment on Call of Duty 4, but some people found it a nightmare to play. I personally hated playing Fuel on Modern Warfare 2. And it wasn't just because that map was so glitchy with that stupid ass rock and shit like that. It's because the shit felt so large that it felt like 2 to 3 maps all wrapped into one. Or better yet, it felt like a map that belongs in Battlefield with some fucking tanks and shit. But the most insane reason people hate maps is because of this bullshit reason. This map is made for campers. What the motherfucker does that mean? How are maps made for campers? Does it have a campsite or a porta potty on the motherfucker? Does it come with bears and raccoons trying to steal your Scooby snacks or some shit? No! As fucking clueless as Infinity Ward and Treyarch are, they do not create maps with campers in mind. They just don't. They've actually made attempts at stopping corner campers and building campers. The problem is, campers always find places to set up shop on any map. Fact is, if there's a 90-degree angle, a corner camper will sit there. If there's a waist-high box at a choke point, a camper will sit there. If there's a building with one entrance in, a camper will set up shop in there. These are not maps built for campers. These are campers finding a way to play like bitches on any single map. Unless you create a completely circular map with no cover and 360 different spawn points in a circle, there will always be a spot for a camp. I mean, on a side note, I want a completely circular map like that. Think about it. You could call it the Killing Field or the Circle of Life or a Circle Jerk for Life. I don't give a shit, whatever floats your boat. But this would be the greatest map of all time. 360-degree, perfectly circular map with no cover. Basically, you just kill motherfuckers on that shit. But anyway, no map will ever be perfect. Sure, there are some great maps that were created. Sure, there are some shitty ones. But that's all an opinion of an individual. There's no objective rating system that grades maps based on how they were built. So you can't blame the developers for maps that you don't like personally. I'm sure if we conducted a poll right now, you would see different reactions to different maps. If I asked you guys, what do you think of Crash on Call of Duty 4? What would you say? If I asked you, how much did you like Dome on World at War? What would you say? What do you think of Favela, or Havana, or Underground, or Turbine? But even with all these maps that have been created, there are a few lessons that Infinity Ward and Treyarch have learned over the years to at least try to make the maps fair. First lesson, fewer rectangle-shaped maps. If you think back to Call of Duty 4, a map like Ambush, or Downpour, or Wetwork was a spawn trapper's wet dream. Capture your flag, capture the B flag, and keep a team pinned down an entire game without letting them out. There were only a few spawn points and very few pathways to get out of those spawn points, so basically you kept an enemy trapped and it was the easiest way possible to win. Now obviously a map like Hijacked on Black Ops 2 falls into that rectangle category, but certainly not as many as the earlier games. For maps to be fair, they need to be more like a triangle map or a circle shape map or any other geometric fucking pattern other than a rectangle. Basically, the wider a map is, the more escape routes and spawn points you create for even teams to play a more competitive game. And notice I said even teams, because obviously if you have a very good team and a very bad team, the very good team's going to win no matter what. But we're talking about even teams not having a map beat them. Second lesson, the best maps in the game will have areas that benefit all gun types, from a sniper rifle down to an SMG. Maps need to provide all players with areas that suit the different guns. Some good examples of this was Crossfire in Call of Duty 4. Snipers had the long alley, and rarely did people run through the middle of that map. Nobody fucking crossed that shit for fear of a sniper. And the buildings were made for SMG play and shotgun play. Maps like Shipment and Wasteland were specialty maps. They catered to close quarters fighters or long distance fighting. Nothing wrong with having a map or two like that, but you can't have an entire roster of maps that are specialty maps. Providing different areas for each gun is how maps succeed in this game. Provide some sniper towers, some higher viewpoints for them, provide some tight alleyways and buildings and shit like that, underground tunnels for up close fighting. When all guns benefit on a map, people tend to feel like the map is built fairly. And when you have multiple maps that play fair, you don't feel like you're pigeonholed into playing the game just one way. The third and most important lesson is there has to be a good ratio of outdoor space to indoor space. Bad examples would include Jungle on Black Ops 1 and Mission on Modern Warfare 3. Very little indoor space to protect you from vehicles, and they were mostly outdoor maps, which led to a number of people using those avoidance perks that we all talked about. Arkaden in Modern Warfare 3 and Asylum in World at War, They were building maps. Basically, there was not a lot of outdoor space. So a good example of outdoor to indoor fighting would be a map like Firing Range on Black Ops 1 or Terminal in Modern Warfare 2, Hard Hat in Modern Warfare 3. They had a very good ratio of outdoor to indoor space. But there are a few things missing from Call of Duty that can only be added with this new engine. You guys remember from my very first video, I did discuss the new engine the game needs. Now obviously, Call of Duty just announced this new engine, and while the details will emerge over time, the few things I would want to improve the maps can only be done with the new engine. First of all, environmental damage, and I'm sure the Battlefield fans just jumped up and said, stop ripping us off. No, but this is real shit, man. We don't need Battlefield-type destruction when you can take down a whole fucking house. But maps should have some level of destructible environments with certain weapons or kill streaks and shit like that. You know, I have a hard time fucking watching a straw house in Africa held together with spit and boogers as the fucking glue, holding shape when an AC-130 howitzer missile nails that motherfucker. I mean, that's total bullshit, man. We don't need maps where every fucking house is blown up, but at least something to alter how the maps play and shit like that. I mean, considering I want a bunker buster kill streak and the howitzer shot from the AC-130 to do what it's supposed to do, I would like some form of building damage and environmental damage. I want more than a fucking fire hydrant or exploding car blowing up in the game, especially when you consider how powerful the explosives in this game really are. The other element that's missing is true weather effects. And I'm not just talking about making it rain or snow on a map or shit like that where it has no effect other than visual. I want actual effects. What I would do is I would take all the original maps the game creates. So let's just say you have 10 original maps. I would add a brand new map that adds a weather effect to it. So you keep your original 10 maps and then you start adding weather effects that you can play in other game modes. So let's say you have a normal looking map on a sunny day and whatnot. How about in the weather related map of it, it'll have freezing cold, and that affects anyone who stays outside in the cold too long, where you risk exposure and your body begins to slow down. Aiming down sight slows down, more gun sway from less concentration because you're so cold and shit like that. You get what I'm talking about? We can have maps with limited visibility due to rain or sandstorms. You know, you can't see shit in front of you. Thus, it limits the vision of where you can actually see your enemies and whatnot. Or you can have heat waves where your character loses the ability to run from overheating. Or my personal favorite, wind gust. Shit that'll make your character completely off with your aiming. Imagine that shit. You're sniping in a fucking hurricane only for the bullet to get completely blown away mid-flight. That would be some cool shit. It would annoy the fuck out of people, but it'd be some cool shit. Now, of course, like I said, this wouldn't be a normal rotation map. It would be separated from the group in some sort of specialty game mode or something like that. But just imagine the effects you can create just with weather. And it could be a number of things, just from slipping and falling in the rain when you're trying to run or some shit like that, or reloading slower in colder weather, or needing to find water supplies on desert maps to remove the effects of heat. There are countless ways weather can add effects to the game, but this can only happen with this new and improved engine that Call of Duty is trying to release. If Call of Duty tried to do this on the current engine, it would be half-assed, like all the Treyarch attempts with these gimmick maps and shit like that, which, by the way, let me talk about this for a second. Treyarch, just stop. I mean, seriously, just stop with the bullshit gimmicks on maps. Just because one of your programmers learned how to do something that programmers from other more talented studios did a few years ago doesn't mean you should add it years later. You just make yourself look foolish each and every time you do this. I mean, just look at the gimmick maps they've had. Rockets blasting off, bridges collapsing on that ice map, trains coming through stations at high speed, garage doors open and closed, lava flowing down a fucking hill. I mean, really? Do you think this half-ass attempt at adding shitty gimmicks to a map isn't fucking laughed at by other studios when they see how pathetic your programming really is? I mean, you tell people, oh, we've modified our ancient engine and it allows us to have these new and creative ideas. Bullshit, man. Stop pretending that opening a fucking door in a video game is some kind of innovation that only you created. Give me a fucking break with that shit, man. You want innovation? Use the new fucking engine. You want innovation? Make sure that weather effects actually affect what you do in this fucking game. I don't give a shit if it's nighttime, if it's sunny out, if it's raining. If it has no effect on how I play, you're not innovating shit. You're basically just doing the status quo for the same 6 fucking years over and over again. And another thing, stop adding stupid ass locations as your map because you think it's cool. I mean, both developers are guilty of this shit, and usually they do it when it comes to DLC maps that we pay for. You know, skate parks, carnivals with fun houses and roller coasters, the motherfucking rundown zoo or boardwalk in Jersey. I'm sure you guys over at these studios think this shit is cool. The reality is, the best maps are the ones with direct ties to the campaign. If people can identify with a memorable scene in the game, they can identify with that map. Remember Call of Duty 4, where you had to protect the tank in the street and they turned that into the Crossfire map? Or storming the broadcast station and that was based on a DLC map? Or Block, with that epic campaign mission with saving, what's his name, Captain McNugget or whatever the fuck his name is? You know what I'm talking about, right? I can't remember his fucking name, but you had to carry his lazy ass through building after building after building, and that was the Block map. That's where your success comes from. Not from a gimmick idea location, not from stupid shit with no connection to the plot of the game. If your campaign is on point, then most of your maps will easily come from those. When your campaign is all fucked up, That's when you come up with these shitty locations. You know, if I want a skate park, I'll play Tony Hawk. If I want to play in a fucking fun house with clowns, I'll go play Twisted Metal. If I want to play in a stadium with a miniature hockey rink, I'll go play NHL. Unless your ideas include a shootout at a titty bar, then your maps have no context with the storyline. If you want a map at a university, have a mission in the campaign, go there. If you want a map on a moving train, have a mission in the campaign, go there. If you want a map at a museum, have a mission in the campaign, go there. And of course, the titty bar idea wouldn't hurt either. Listen, stop with the half-ass gimmicks on maps. Stop with the stupid-ass locations, aside from that titty bar, and get back into making your campaign worth a pot to piss in. Then, you can build ideas off of your great campaign, add some weather, and continue to get away from the rectangle-shaped maps, and that's how you improve the maps in Call of Duty. When you use a memorable campaign as the backdrop, you can easily improve the stale shit we have seen for 6 fucking years. Anyway, that's my improvement on the maps. Next up, we're getting into the guns. Oh god, it's only taken me 13 fucking videos to talk about the goddamn guns. Anyway, as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit, and I'll see you guys in the next BluePrint video.